Hello, everyone. Hello to everyone in the audience, and we have a very special guest, as always, Said Murad. Welcome back. How are you?
Thank you for having me once again. It's always a pleasure to collaborate with you.
Absolutely. Um, for those who may not be aware, if you've been hiding under a rock or or, or living on an island, Murad has completed his translation of the Quran into English and is currently offering a free sample of it, and you're making your way around the different channels to tell people about it. Do you want to tell us a little bit more on that score?
Yeah, well, the sample it's downloaded over 300 times now, and a lot
Brilliant.
of people they are they are very surprised when the sample actually ends at just Surah 2 verse 106, and they're surprised. So
Yeah,
I asked them, what if you get the whole thing?
yeah. There's
So,
something in the ayahs coming after that, I presume. That's a bombshell.
yeah, so as we speak now, put if new people they wanna download free sample. Now the reason people put the free sample is because they would be on my email list. So I will email them the full translation once it's out for sale.
Yeah,
So they will be the very first people to get it.
yeah.
Now
So
some
you
people
don't have.
could say, well, I could just wait. Well, you will wait a lot because I want to give it to the people on the email list before I make a presentation show to the entire YouTube.
Yeah,
So you better be on the list because you will be like 1 month or 2 months early,
yeah,
So
yeah. Um, Obviously, you don't have a fixed date when it'll be released. You want to go around and share your free samples first. Do you expect it'll probably be released sometime in the summer?
yeah, it will be like in July,
Yeah, that'd be
but
brilliant.
July for the people on my list, not on YouTube.
Yeah. So mostly how you can get on the email list is just simply download the free sample.
Download the
So
free sample with an accurate email that you use.
yeah,
That's it. Then you are on my email list.
yeah. So Murad, you're going to share the link in the chat. So if
Yes.
people want to do that, they can do so. So but back to the topic today. The video today is going to focus on two issues. The second one that we're going to be going on to is the lustful Mahmed, and this topic came up actually. It was just a very tiny part of a paper by Professor Robert Kerr, which was in French, which I'm about halfway through. It's quite a lengthy paper. Uh, De désir à la louange, which means from desire to praise, and it's talking about the roots of the word Hamad and the prehistory of Muhammad, and so it's exploring the fact that in all of the Semitic languages, the the meaning of the root Hamad is typically to desire in whatever form that might be, the desired one or to desire in general. But then later you get the sense of the praised one. But that isn't something that you typically find in the other Semitic languages. It's unique to Arabic. And there's a big debate about that. One argument is made is that the tafsir have brought about that meaning, um, because obviously they've created this figure called Muhammad, and obviously they want to praise him, so it kind of falls into place that they want to add that meaning to it. The other suggestion is that the meaning came from a Sabaic meaning, and that entered into the Arabic language. Now, what I've heard from some scholars is they think that this is getting the cart before the horse here, and that meaning actually began with the tafsir, and then it got transmitted down to Yemen later. So I think there's probably going to be people on both sides of the argument there in terms of which came first. I'm 50-50 on that one. Any thoughts on any of that so far, Murad?
To be really good at this, I'm not aware of it, so no.
Yeah. Just in terms of the meaning of the word Mahmed as it's currently used, would you have a sense in the word itself that it has a connotation of praise, the praised one, the desired one, or maybe a combination? What's your take on that?
Current, it would be the praise.
Yeah.
That's why in my Quran, of course, I left it as Muhammad in my Quran because it's a name. If you will read it, assuming the Quran to be Arabic.
Okay. Yeah.
So it would mean the highly praised one or the extolled one.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's going to be a kind of an interesting area to kind of delve into in terms of why it is that when you go to the other Semitic languages, it's very clearly the desired one, or has connotations around that sense, and then it morphs into the praised one. And when exactly that happened and how it happened is an interesting issue. So let's going to be, before we go onto that topic, we're going to be looking at two very important inscriptions. The first one is going to be a Jewish leader down in Yemen called, and I know you're going to correct me on this, but I'll give it my best shot. Du Nuwas.
Dhul Nawas.
Du Nuwas. And the second inscription is the famous Abraham inscription from 553. And I was looking at both of them today, and I noticed that there's a bit of a parallel. And now the connection between the first topic I'm going to look at and the second one is that the inscriptions are found in that paper that I mentioned by Robert Kerr. And before we go on any further, I see Paul Ellis is in the house. Welcome, Paul. Always a pleasure. And so let's get stuck in. So what was interesting is that between these two inscriptions, one of them is a Jewish inscription dated 523 AD, and the second one is a Christian inscription dated 552, so roughly 30 years later. And in both cases, they have Rahmanan and his either Messiah or Mahmed. So it's a couplet used by Jews and Christians in Yemen in the 6th century. So that is very interesting. For those who perhaps doubt that Mahmed was being used by Jews to mean Messiah, I think this couplet helps to strengthen that case if there's any doubt about it. Now, so a little bit of information here. 520 AD, the Exarch Marzutra II is killed. And then in 523, you have an inscription, and it's done in the name of Yusuf Asar Yatzar, nicknamed Nuwas, if I got it right, by the Muslim tradition. Hemorrhagic king of Jewish faith, persecuted and killed numerous Miaphysite Christians in Najran on the northern frontier of Yemen. He also killed Byzantine merchants elsewhere in his kingdom. So you have this interesting double occurrence. First of all, you have a Jewish exarch that's killed, and then following up with that, you have a Jewish king in Yemen who's on the rampage against the Christians. And the fact is that the inscription refers to a Mahmed in it, which could indicate one of two people. It could indicate that it's referring to Exilarch Marzutra II, which is one possibility. But because of the Jewish tradition around the Mahmed being two people, the Messiah bin Joseph and the Messiah bin David, it opens up the possibility that it can actually either refer to Marzutra, who got killed, or it could potentially be referring to Du Nuwas, who might have viewed himself as the Messiah himself, especially seeing he's on the rampage against the Christians. So let's take a look at this. So this is from Robert Kerr's paper, and essentially he talks about the fact that this inscription is called Jah 1028, and it is in connection to Du Nuwas, and it's down in the Hemyar. And what is the key bit there? There's a lot of just kind of background information about who's involved and so forth, but we're going to just move on to the next part, which is of more interest to us even. So you have the inscription in Sabaik at the top, and then there's a French translation. And verse 12 there is, I suppose, the key bit. La protège de quiconque l'on dommage, and then the important bit is cette inscription a été fixée et composée au nom de Rahmanan. So this inscription is being composed in the name of Rahmanan, which is the merciful. Would that be right, Murad?
Well, it's a strange name. It's like in Arabic you have Al-Rahim. This would be like the Arabic word meaning the merciful. But Rahmanan, if I read it in Arabic, it could mean like the two who are merciful.
Oh, the two. Okay.
Yeah,
like the plural.
Rahmanan. It's a dual, yeah. That's if
dual.
I will assume Arabic.
Right, okay. Yeah, so it could be a Sabaik local dialect, so it may not necessarily be the same as in Arabic. Am I understanding it correctly?
Yeah, like I don't know exactly the Sabaik how they read and write because it's different than current Arabic.
Yeah.
But if I will assume that it's the same, then these two are Rahmanan, everyone, two merciful ones, you know?
Okay. Well, in the context, actually, that makes perfect sense. Now, it mentions in the next part, Tamimum de Clan Hadiyat La Afe, which means that Tamiun created it or made the inscription. And then it says, par le Seigneur des Juifs, which means by the Lord of the Jews. And then it says, par Muhammad, or by Muhammad, or even by Mahmed. Now, that's considering what you've just said about Rahmanan, the two merciful ones, that fits perfectly with the follow-up line. The two merciful ones being indicated is the Lord of the Jews, which would be God, and then Muhammad, whoever that is in this context. It's not clear. Is it referring to Marzutra II, who got killed, or could it be in reference to Du Nuwas, who is the current king of Yemen, who's not too merciful to the Christians at that time, it should be pointed out.
But let me tell you something. Yeah, it makes sense. Let me tell you something also about the word Ar-Rahman. This word is not just any merciful one. This is like the ultimate, like a further step. So it's not a human. It could be like a Messiah or something, and it is very possible that this word is used with someone who is more divine,
Yeah,
not with because any merciful person you will just say he is Rahim, not Rahman.
yeah. That's
Like
interesting.
qara'a, you know, qara'a means reading, but Quran, qara'a and Quran is like an ultimate reading, a very higher. Uh, that's if we assume Arabic, because
Yeah,
as I'm saying always, this is not Aramaic. What I'm telling you now, it's Arabic.
yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Now that what you just said opened up the whole can of worms in terms of the theology of the Jews in the early 6th century. There are they opening up the possibility of a divine or semi-divine figure of the Messiah, possibly, and like the Quran does refer to the Jews believing that Aziz is the son of Allah, um, which Aziz I take it as another messianic title. So there's an awful lot of the different Jewish sects died out, when the Judaism got consolidated and things got lost over the centuries. So these earlier beliefs could have been very different to what they are today. Um, Now, just looking at the chat, I see. Let me just share it here before we go on. Paul says, "Was Muhammad lustful in the Quran or the Hadith?" Um, my opinion would be in the Hadith. What do you think?
Yes,
Murad?
same.
Same, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think the myth makers had to make Mo miraculous somehow, use Eros for that purpose. I'm not. I know that Eros is the god of love. That I suppose that could be the miraculous side. Especially, well, actually, there are certain hadiths, as we'll see later, where Muhammad is presented as having superhuman strength on the sexual front. So I think that's probably what you mean there.
I think a lot of people forget that if you have Muhammad after Jesus, you have a problem, because Jesus made miracles, so your prophet has to exceed him or at least be like him. So
Yeah,
that's why they had to make these myths. It's
yeah,
easy to explain, actually.
yeah, yeah. So Paul says the Quran refers to the Prophet's wives and seems to talk of him taking Zaid's wife. He seems comfortable talking of sex with those one's right hand possesses, and of course the hours of paradise. Now, I know that a number of scholars are of the opinion that the text that refers to Zaid and Zainab and all of that has been an interpolation. But just overall, what would your take on that be, Murad?
Well, I would tell him he has to get my translation, because not everything he assumes here is correct. There are a lot of things that came after. I always say this example: the word gay, it used to mean happy, now it means homosexual.
Yeah,
So what happened? Exactly the same thing with the Quran. The Quran was hijacked by Persians who do not know Arabic, and then they superimposed um, such interpretations. Very important to look at this.
yeah, yeah. Actually, this is a very good observation here. I remember hearing some Chinese traveler calling the Zemzem the Zoroastrians lustful or something. Yes, that came up in one of the sources. Du Huan, I think he was named, and that would have been from the 750s. So there was definitely the the perverted stuff definitely was in the Zoroastrian milieu at that time. So that would be a furthermore explanation for why there would be people comfortable to produce these hadiths whenever those hadiths were written. It's very hard to know exactly. Possibly some of the hadiths were written early, but I think a lot of them were written much later. But that's another story. Um, yeah, the hadith also mentions 72 Hurains, which they claim to be weak, and I suppose the Sabaic part of that, Murad, would be that it's a misunderstanding about the text to do with grapes.
Yes, exactly. It comes more from the Syriac.
Yeah. Okay. When do we get to the endless list of babes? That's the question. The timing of it, when exactly it happens, I have a lot of different ideas on that. I do think the Ottoman era brought in a lot of hadiths, but in terms of the vast majority, were they done in the Ottoman times or were they done earlier? It's hard to know. I'm kind of leaving a big question mark on that. So let's move on. Has that moved on? No. Okay. So then we come to century census, I ask and jest. Sorry, I didn't pick up on that. Sorry. So in 552 AD, the Aksumite Christian ruler Abraha had an inscription made. You find a reference to Rahmanan the Merciful, i.e. God, and his Messiah, presumably because it's a Christian, would be Jesus. It clearly echoes the Jewish inscription from 523. So there's a little bit of information there. With Rahmanan's might and that of his Messiah, sorry, this is from the inscription, I should say. King Abraha's, sorry, I'm reading this from a very small screen, so you bear with me. And that of his Messiah, King Abraha Zaibim, king of Saba, of Du Radan, of Hadra Mawat, and of Yamas, and so forth. And then it says, inscribe this text when he raided Mad for the fourth time. Now, if we go to, let me see where, well, I suppose the key bit is in the first few words, with Rahmanan's might and that of his Messiah. So you have that couplet. So if you think back to the other one, 523, it referred to the Lord of the Jews and his Mahmed. And here you have Rahmanan's might and that of his Messiah. Now, it also in that 523 inscription also uses the term Rahmanan. So I think you have a couplet there, and you have a kind of like essentially a debate between the Christians and Jews. One is saying their God and the Messiah, whereas the other one is saying their God and the Mahmed. Now, any thoughts on that before we move on?
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Know that.
Yeah. It might explain the confusion in the 7th century when you have coins with Mahmed on it with crosses. So if there's already in the 6th century an understanding of Rahmanan and his Messiah, and the Jews call him Mahmed, then it makes sense for Christians then to eventually start using Mahmed with crosses to refer to Jesus. So they've kind of accepted the term, as it were, from the Jews, but are disagreeing about who the Messiah is. So I see Century Sense has. I see Century Sense has become a convert member level there, official convert. Yeah. No. That's not. Could Bismillah Rahman Rahim be about the Trinity?
Remember also on.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Remember correct.
Yeah. So what I would say yes in answer to this question. What's your thought?
Yeah, I think this connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the ilah part, I know it means God, but it could be in this context, God understood as the Father, and then take your pick for the other two being about the Holy Spirit and Jesus. Like that's the idea behind it. So let's move on now to 7. So we're on to the juicy part, the Arabian stallion. So we're going to be looking at Mahmed's lustful etymological root in Ugaritic. So first of all, we're going to remind ourselves of some of the juicier hadiths, which you will have heard David Wood use as part of the argument from embarrassment, saying that these are so embarrassing that they must be true. That's the argument. And, when David Wood had a debate with Jay Smith, it must be 2 years ago on this topic, the only argument I think David Wood had against the historical critique was the argument from embarrassment. Would you agree, Murad?
Yeah, that's the bulk of his argument.
Yeah, he hadn't. He had anything else. I know for some members of the audience, that seemed a fairly decent argument. But the problem is, even for the likes of me, who is pushing for the historical critique, there is something there, and it's like, how do I explain all of this sexual stuff? And it's not enough to say that the hadiths are clearly fiction, because we can see all of these historical markers that disprove it, but you kind of still have to explain why would they paint him in such an obviously bad light, at least from our perspective. And that's been the difficulty. So we're going to make a stab at explaining it later today in this live stream. But first, let's have a look at some of these hadiths. And hello to Alika, by the way. Now, let me just see if I can increase the size for me, because I'll struggle to read it. One of the difficulties I have working with this is that there's a panel on the left-hand side that blocks the screen, and I'm not sure how to get rid of. Do you know how to remove the panel from the left-hand side, Murad, by any chance? Live stream. No, it's the section on the left as we kind of look at the live stream. It blocks my site. So I have two options. I can look at it in small writing, or part of it is blocked. So let me just, I'll try to, no, that doesn't do it. So I'll have to just bring it back to small, I think. No.
Yeah, you can make it.
Maybe if could you read it for me, because I can't, unfortunately, I can't see it the way it is at the current moment. Oh.
Okay. The first hadith.
Yeah.
The prophet you visit his wife, and that time.
Great. Oh, actually,
Second one would. What?
Oh no! Whatever I did just there, it's the panel that was blocking my way has disappeared. So that's grand. So go ahead. Do you want to read the second part? In a single night and all the time. Okay. Yeah. So the question we kind of have to ask when we read any of these hadiths, because some of these hadiths seem utterly pointless and silly and dealing with small matters. Maybe not this one necessarily, but I suppose the question we're kind of asking, when they wrote this hadith, what was the purpose that they were trying to make, or what was the main point that they were trying to make? I suppose the main point here is they were trying to suggest that the Prophet had the sexual appetite of like 9 people. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it'd be one thing to say he had 9 wives, and you say, well, but he spent he went to each them on different nights. But no, here he's basically saying he's found time to have sex with all of them in the one night. So he's, you know, superhuman in his sexual prowess and massively lustful and so forth. That's the idea behind it. So if we have a look at this one, Aisha, wife of the Prophet, reported when the Apostle of Allah intended to go on a journey, he cast lots amongst his wives, and the one who was chosen by lot went on it with him. Lucky girl. He divided his time day and night equally for each of his wives, except that Sauda, daughter of Zama, gave her day to Aisha, which was, of course, very good of her. So, again, it's presenting this idea that, you know, he hardly had time to do his prophethood stuff because he was jumping from one wife to the other each day. So, and then we have this other one that really kind of drives home the point. Anas bin Malik said the Prophet used to visit all his wives in a round during the day and night, and they were 11 in number. I asked Anas, had the Prophet the strength for it? Anas said, we used to say that the Prophet was given the strength of 30 men. And Sa'id said on the authority of Qatada that Anas had told him about 9 wives only, not 11. It's almost like they're saying, oh, you know, 9 is okay, but 11 is kind of indecent. It's too many. But I think the point is being made. They're trying to argue that Muhammad is really lustful, as if that were a great thing, a virtuous thing. So, and some more sort of weird hadiths. Aisha said, the messenger of Allah married me when I was 6 and consummated the marriage with me when I was 9. There's also, I think we've lost Murad there. Maybe he'll be back to us. It was narrated that Aisha said, the messenger of Allah married me when I was 6 and consummated the marriage with me when I was 9, and I used to play with dolls. So again, it's very weird, and it suggests that he was, you know, taken over with sexual desire. And another one, and these are pretty gross, and it's kind of it's awkward even just mentioning these, but Ibn Umar told how Umar bin al-Khattab mentioned to God's messenger that he was affected by seminal defilement during the night and was told to perform ablution, wash his you-know-whats, and go back to sleep. Again, a similar one, I heard Aisha say that she would wash semen from the cloth of Messenger of Allah. She added, then I would see a mark or marks after washing. And then we have another one, which I won't go read. I can let you kind of read that yourselves, but it talks about suckling to get rid of the problems with being sharing the house with someone who's not your husband or wife. I'll just bring back Murad. What happened to you, Murad? You're back.
I don't know. The action is very bad. Things in the chat.
Ah, okay.
So people should tell me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if it's on my side or your side, but maybe it's on your side. I'm not sure. Now, so previously we saw that the root of Mahmud had the meaning of desire even in the Bible. And this is something that I've picked up from Professor Robert Kerr. So if you take Hamid, you can see it has the meaning of has desired or desireth, man desires, etc. And then we also saw in the Song of Songs the term Mahmadim or Mahmadim, which here could be translated as lovely, but lovely in the sense of being desirable. You've a bit of a bombshell to tell us later on that one, Murad, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
So there is
So,
something.
yeah,
There's something more to that term. It's kind of what's the word for it? It's the meaning is sanitized in the Bible, and even there was an argument about whether the Song of Songs should be included in the Bible to begin with because of some of the controversial aspects of the wording that was used in it, and this is not really obvious maybe to those who are reading it in translation, but let's move on from there. Okay, so again, this is from Robert Kerr's paper, and essentially what he says in the Eucharistic, the Semitic language, or the Western Semitic language of the town gives that its name. Let me just jump on. I'm trying to translate on the fly here. It is attested in the sense of to desire sexually, so désiré sexuellement. So it has that connotation. Dans plusieurs textes mythologiques, which means in many mythological texts. Par exemple, dans KTU, and it is this piece here, which I will sound out as Bal Hamdam Ya Madame, which is translated in French as Bal les désirés ardemment, which means Bal desires lustfully or ardently them. I'll say so. Bal lust for them. So we have essentially what Robert Kerr is saying is that we have a sexual meaning to the word Hamad, or even Mahmedi. That's where we're going to bring you, Murad, back on. So you've something to tell us. It was a bit of a bombshell when you told me about this the other day.
yeah. First thing, I think the voice is fixed. People, I want them to tell me in the chat. And second, this word Mahmadim in Arabic, a lot of Muslims, they call out Christians, they tell them your Bible is corrupt and stuff because of this word. Because it means in Arabic, the one lusted after, or the one full of lusts.
Yeah.
Exactly, this is the word in Arabic.
So they've actually
Mushtahayat.
got. So they have. So Arabic has actually retained that Eucharistic meaning, that sexual desire, the lust sense of it.
Exactly, and that's why Muslim YouTubers, they always make these videos. They saying, look at the Christians, they say lust in their Bible, the Quran never says that, this kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah. Now, to kind of to tie up the loose ends, then I think if we're thinking about the 7th and 8th century, where there's a kind of mythology developing about a Messiah figure, a Mahmed, and they're looking to whatever sources they can get to build up a biography for this person of their imagination primarily. They see the word Mahmedim in the Bible, and from what you're telling me, it has kind of a lustful connotation. So I can well understand then why they would write stories about him being lustful, because it wouldn't make any sense, would it, to have him like a monk, very virtuous guy. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, if you are creating a myth, then you have to make the name fit the character. So it works, yeah.
Yeah. There's a Latin term which is nomen est omen, which is the name is the omen. Essentially, it's so the meaning of the name foretells the story of the person. So, like, for example, to use sort of everyday examples. If someone was called John Walker, their life story that would be very appropriate to John Walker would be that they become a long distance walker, or they become an athlete that spends their time walking, you know. Or if I think of another, or uh, Michael Driver becomes a Formula One driver or something like that. So their name fits the life that they lead, you know. So perhaps what they have done when it comes to the hadiths, they're trying to produce content. They've just got Mahmoud to work with, and they're aware in the Arabic that it has a sexual connotation, it has a lustful kind of meaning to it. And then they're purposely creating these crazy stories that are really weird from the modern point of view to fit the name itself. Would that be a fair way of putting it?
Yeah, I wanna also tell you something. Today in Arabic drama and in Arabic movies, they do the exact same thing. Let's say someone is very generous. They will call him Kareem, meaning the generous one. That's how
Yeah,
they will write his name in the script. Or they will call him Bakhil, meaning the very, very stingy, so that there is a dilemma there.
yeah,
But they have to choose a name that has something to do with his character. And this is what they used to do in literature also. So it's very possible that Muhammad, meaning the lustful one or the one lusted after, uh, this is why and how they chose the name, and they made it fit this way to create the character, the fictitious character. I have no problem with this interpretation. You see?
yeah. So the name suggests the character suggests the plot suggests the story, i.e., the hadith. So you can see the full cycle of how it's generated. That's very interesting. There is a Spanish writer whose name escaped me. Is it that wrote Don Quixote? Uh, Miguel Cervantes, I think it is. Miguel Cervantes. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I think it's Cervantes, certainly. Um, Now he was captured by Muslims in his lifetime. He was taken as a slave for a while, and he had come into close contact with them. But one of the things he did when he wrote his book about Don Quixote, he actually follows the same episodic style of the Hadiths, where you have a story with no context. The character enters the scene, the story runs it's goes from beginning to end, and then it jumps to another episodic story without any sense of linkage between all of these individual stories. And the suggestion is that he's lampooning the Hadiths and how they tell stories, which is just literally, oh, here's a story, right? Here's another story that's got nothing to do with the previous one. What do you think of that possibility? Any thoughts?
Yeah. Remember that the very first biography of Muhammad, the Caliph actually asked Ibn Ishaq to write this biography for his son. So you have to fill it with fiction. I mean,
Yeah,
if you today you're gonna tell me make a movie for my son, uh,
yeah,
it's gonna be full of fiction so that it becomes thrilling to watch.
yeah,
So this is the story. This is how Ibn Ishaq started to write the biography of Muhammad, and I don't know how people never uh, look at this point closely.
yeah. Um, so I think I think when you look at it this way, like it's very hard to take these hadiths or sirah seriously. Um, the impression I got when I read the very lengthy and tedious hadiths of Al Buhari is that I can't even after a certain length of reading them, I couldn't take them seriously as a real world. It just felt like a fantasy world without any of those sort of details that make you kind of sense that this is about something real. It just felt fake. And it's kind of like a gut instinct. You kind of, it didn't pass the smell test, you know. But I'm amazed that, it's one thing for Muslims to buy it, but the bit I can never understand is I can't believe that Christians believe these stories unless they're happy to accept them as true because it suits their mission. They obviously want juicy stories to lampoon Islam, but other than that, I can't understand why they can make that mental jump to believe that they're actually real rather than fake. What's your thoughts on that, Murad?
Well, I think that the David Wood approach is more like they are fighting them with their own weapon.
Yeah,
Like, as if they are saying, well, we only fight with swords. They will say, well, I'm gonna fight you with a sword, not with a rifle, though I have a rifle.
yeah,
So, but me and you, other people, we are actually very interested to know the reality, which the standard Islamic narrative basically uh, abolished it, because the Ottomans, they had the power and then they rewrote everything. Without understanding the Ottomans, we do not understand how we have the final version of Islam.
yeah,
That's the idea.
yeah. And I think the sort of the image I might suggest is the history of Islam is like a series of rooms interconnected. So they've moved things from the first room and then set fire to that room, wiping it clear, so there's nothing left or very little left. They move everything in the second room, and a few centuries later, they do the same thing. They set fire to it, move a few bits and pieces, and then what you have is the current room. I hope this metaphor works if you follow it. So, for example, just to put it into context, so you know what I'm talking about. So the Umayyads, when the Abbasids take over, what do? They basically wipe all the records. They dig up the Umayyad leaders, crucify them according to an account. Whether that's true or not is very hard to know, but according to the account, they were brutal in destroying the Umayyad history. Then the Abbasids had their own moment when they had their history destroyed in the form of the invasion of the Mongols, who basically destroyed Baghdad and all the libraries and so forth. And then you had the Ottomans then come later, and they essentially rewrite the whole thing. And then, like if you take anything that's in the Islamic history, everything has got variants right through it. So you have the Qurans, so you have so many different editions of the Quran with variants, hundreds of variants between them. Um, the Hadiths seem to have the variants intentionally placed in them, which is really strange. But as far as I can see, they've purposely created variants of Hadiths to make them look convincingly like they are genuine stories that have come down through tradition. What's your take on that? Would you?
Well, I think there is a very important part of the puzzle that we are missing, and that's the technology. What's the technology that they had back then? The
Yeah,
first people to create paper to write on were the Chinese,
yeah,
and this is the coincides with the time where this hadith started to be written.
yeah,
So you can't assume that everyone had paper and he used to easily write down. Well, the better explanation would be that people used to hear this stuff, write down by memory. So people in Syria used to write by memory. I'm talking about the hadith. And
yeah,
then later, when all of this was too much and too contradictory by the Ottoman, now we have paper, now we are in a much better situation. Centuries later, they said, well, let's do this hadith which is da'if and sahih and all this stuff. This is
Yeah.
when things got like too much contradiction, too much hadith. That's the idea. It was
So
just like the evolution of technology made them do these mistakes.
so they can retain the contradictions by just labeling them like strong, weak, or whatever, so that they have an excuse for why one hadith contradicts another. They can say, "Well, that's a strong one. This is a weak one."
You know,
Job done.
Muslim YouTubers, because I'm watching them today, so that I tell the foreigners, or let's say the English speak, when I talk to them, I want to tell them what the Muslim YouTubers are saying in Arabic. So the Muslim YouTubers, they always use da'if hadith, which is weak hadith, to make points. And let's say I will quote this da'if hadith, they will
Yeah,
say, well, you are quoting a da'if hadith, you are a liar and stuff. So
yeah.
they quote them once they suit them. There is a very famous hadith saying that the Prophet said, seek knowledge even if it's in China. Do you know this?
No.
This is a very famous hadith which is weak.
Yeah,
Seek knowledge even if it's as far as China.
yeah,
But people, they use it all the time in Arabic. They never say this is a weak hadith.
yeah. So when it
So
suits them,
yeah,
it's
it was like this from the beginning.
yeah. So all the hadiths are pretty much good, but if push comes to shove, they can pull out the daif card and say, "Oh," to get them out of trouble. Other than that, they can use whatever ones they like.
Yeah, exactly. Why erase the daif hadith? Keep it, and maybe you would need it when the recipient is ignorant about it.
Yeah. So now just to wrap up, you the audience will be aware that I've been kind of a bit quieter of late. I've been working on videos with Jay Smith and Syria International, and I've also done stuff with Bob the Builder there recently, live stream. So I've been uh, very busy in the background, and I have another project that's going on in the background that I'm kind of working on. So, and now we're coming up into the summer, and I am going to be taking my annual break from the channel, which, if you've been delving into the history of Islam for 9 months, it can be wearing on the brain. So this is my chance to kind of take a step away from it for a while and kind of recuperate, and also maybe get fresh inspiration. But what I hope to do over the summer is to release the series on Muhammad, which I did with Jay. It covers a lot similar ground to the videos I've done on this channel on Muhammad, but obviously whenever I interact with Jay, that brings something extra to the to the to the story. So I'm going to release that. I probably will also take a look at the videos that I've done on the previous channel called Sneakers Corner. I'm going to release a few of those during the summer, and you never know. Maybe during the summer I may make the odd video here or there. So I'm sure there'll be some more material like that. One of the things I hope to do later in the summer is to bring you back, Murad, to do another video in relation to your Quranic translation. Do you want to tell us a little bit more on that bit before we go, or is that under wraps?
Yeah, quickly, I will tell the people. Um, the PowerPoint, it's almost done. It's about 40 Quranic mistakes, but I call them scandals. These are not mistakes. They are scandals in every English Quran translation. So don't tell me, well, maybe Pickthall had it right, maybe Sahih Internet. No, it all across the board it's wrong, and it's not just wrong, it's a scandal. So these 40 scandals, I made a PowerPoint, and I will finish it maybe tomorrow or something, and it will be released as a premiere, not but the next Tuesday. That's if
Brilliant.
everything went right. This very same PowerPoint I will be making when I collaborate with other people so that they know this information. And I will give people the free sample in this presentation also, so that no new people jump in on it.
Excellent. So before we leave, I haven't been able to keep up with the chat of late. But if you have any closing questions you'd like to ask Murad before he goes, now's a good time. I see this interesting one. Only so much wrestling with a pig you can do before feeling too filthy and needing to get out of the pig pen for a while. That's exactly it. I think that's in relation to what I was talking about, the origins of Islam. Yeah, it feels like wrestling a pig all year, and it's probably time to leave the cesspool behind and get out and get some fresh air. Here's an interesting one as well. You should do a new live about the Ottomans' role in Islam we have today. I'm eager to understand this chapter of history. Yeah, we've done a couple, I think, Murad, on the Ottomans, but there's always so much more we could talk about.
So maybe you can re-up.
Yeah, I think I've uploaded one or two of them, and maybe if I've missed something, I may upload those as well. But as I say, it's a huge area. I suppose the temptation is you could get sidetracked down the Ottoman side of things, though I do think the Ottomans have a big part to play in explaining the origins of Islam, because the assumption that everything began in between the 7th and 9th century is not necessarily true. There's a big chunk that's came in much later, which that in itself is a bit of a scandal, maybe for some Muslims, maybe. Interesting one here. Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, or Ahmed and the 40 Scandals. That could be a name for your 40 Scandals.
Yeah, there is a question quickly. Yes, this one.
That one, yeah.
He is saying, do we have to re-download? No, you don't. You don't. If you downloaded the free sample before this buy me a coffee, like as you call it here, debacle, then you are fine. You are on my list. Actually, I don't advise to download it again if with the same email if you did before. So you are fine.
Yeah.
And he is saying, I am on Yahoo, not receiving notifications. I am not sending emails. I will only send once the Quran is out, or once there is another product out. I do not keep sending emails.
Yeah, you don't want to spam people.
Yeah, this is horrible. So once I send you an email, know that this is something important.
Yeah.
That's why you will rarely get emails from me.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, Murad, it's a pleasure as always. Thanks a lot for dropping by, and look forward to bringing you back when you bring us your 40 Scandals. So thanks a lot for coming.
Yeah,
today.
and last thing, thank you very much for having me. I will again put the link in the description and in the comments for people if they want to download this free sample. Just write an accurate email so that I send you the translation once it's out.
Yeah. So apologies if the audio hasn't been so good. I wonder, is it from both of us, or is it from Murad?
No, it's from my side, and I don't know why.
Yeah. So we'll try and investigate that for the next time. So thanks a lot, Murad, and we'll talk to you all very soon. Bye-bye.